This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacy Cole, and Todd Michaels.
We're talking about the Ellen Greenberg case, a new medical examiner's report, if that's what you want to call it, that has come out that basically says, we were right, la, 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 we don't want to hear anything else to say, and we're not changing anything. Thanks for your time. That's what we're discussing today. Bob Motta with us, host of Defense Diaries. Bob, when I think a lot of people, you know, obviously you are from the legal world, so you know what these things do look like. And as you just recently said, it reads much more like a police report than it does a medical report. I think a lot of people, especially true crimers out there who may not be as versed in this, are going, well, we were expecting much more of a medical-esque report.
Yeah.
But there are aspects that do bleed into both of them to a certain aspect. But this one seemed to really go overboard in one direction. Why do you think it is that they're especially with no investigation, leaning into the facts of the investigation, which didn't exist to begin with? That, again, it just seems to be an insane overstep on something that didn't have a lot of data to begin with to base your medical opinions on, especially areas that have been proven to be falsely reported.
I mean, it's hard to know, man. It's like you kind of touched on it earlier. It's either something nefarious that somebody in, high-ranking places is protecting somebody, or is it as simple as, you know, the police department botched this investigation so badly that, you know, they're worried about liability in terms of civil liability by the Greenberg family going in and saying, you fucked this thing up beyond all recognition and we're suing your ass, you know, and it turns out to be a big windfall for the Greenbergs and a big hit to, you know, the police
Which
department.
They are.
Right.
They are suing. And this report, and I want to talk about kind of what next steps are going to happen from here. This report basically does not reopen an investigation into this because it's stating it's still suicide. They would need to get undetermined or homicide as the cause of death for that door to be opened. It doesn't stop anything in the world of civil lawsuits, though, which is what is going on right now with the Greenbergs. They are suing the city of Philadelphia on this, and I believe there's another hearing, I think, today, technically on this, as we're recording this on the 14th. The fact that the report has come out and has said, we're right, you're wrong, how is that, if at all, is that going to affect the civil case going forward, or any other litigation in terms of that's not criminally related?
Well, I would have to think that the civil suit is going to incorporate these shenanigans, at least in the eyes of the plaintiff, that have been going on with these medical examiners. You know, I mean, because the original guy flip-flopped, you know, and I mean, he like, you know, and that was, again, based on him getting different correct evidence in terms of the fact that the doorman didn't go up there, you know, and that he wasn't escorted, and that he was in the hallway that doesn't have cameras alone for a period of time. And now I've watched this video, like we did a live on Ellen's case probably about 6-8 months ago. And one of the things that we were looking at was I found a video of the way that you can open and engage that lock. And if you guys don't know what kind of lock, think of a hotel room. When you go to the hotel room, it's the lock that guy right there, you know, and it's certainly not impossible, you know, but like, it would be really nice to know, like, you're not going to know how to do it probably without Googling it, which then again leads us back to Sam's devices. You know, like if you find Sam looking up how to engage this type of lock, you know, from outside the door, you've got a smoking gun piece of evidence wherein you're going to trial on that thing, because there's no other reason other than him saying, oh, I'm going to, you know, I was just trying to get into the apartment because she wasn't answering and I didn't want to kick the door down. You know what I mean? Like that would be the only plausible explanation that he could give.
The timing would be important on that. Where
Yes.
did he look it up while he couldn't get in? Then you got a reason. It's like, okay, well,
Right.
maybe. But if he's looking it up like
2
before
days
he goes to the
beforehand.
gym or something,
Right.
like then that's a little weird. But again, that did not happen as far as we know. There's
Right.
no evidence to that. But we will never know because those devices are all long gone. So when it comes down to this, I mean, do you think there is, if they were to truly dig into this with what they have left, with what exists of any evidence, which is, I don't know what exists, is there enough to try and go after anyone? And I'm not saying Sam. I mean anybody in general. Or is it just so botched and that the pieces of this puzzle that you would need to complete it, you can't go buy another puzzle and fill in those pieces. They're just, it's gone. It's out of stock. It's destroyed. They're never making it again. And you're never going to find the answers to those questions without just complete guesswork.
I mean, if you are, well, let me ask this question. Have they, like, I know they've filed suit in order to get the, another autopsy and to have the thing redone. And I know that they won on that. That was
part of the settlement.
Right. That was part of the settlement. So in terms of, they haven't filed civil suit yet, have they?
Well, it was settled. The civil suits were settled.
That was a different thing. That wasn't the, like, so if you're trying to bring a wrongful death suit, which I don't think the wrongful death suit would have to be against Sam's family.
Which has not happened. Yes.
Which has not happened. But the thing about a civil suit is it's a much lower burden. It's preponderance of the evidence as opposed to beyond a reasonable doubt. So the way that they might win that. They might. I mean, it's like probably the prime example of that is OJ, right? So OJ was acquitted in the criminal courts, and then the Goldbergs and Nicole's family sued him civilly, and they won that civil lawsuit, and it was for wrongful death. So the wrongful death lawsuit found him to be liable, and they got a huge monetary award in that. And, I don't know that he ever paid out. I think I watched something recently and the Goldberg family was like, nah, he never paid shit, but for them, it was a win because they wanted OJ to be walking around with that cloud of guilt over him. So, I mean, if I'm the Greenbergs, I'm like, okay, well, you're suing Sam's family, and this is all theoretical. Like,
this is not happening.
Right, this is not happening. So, and I'm suing the police department. I'm suing the medical examiner's department. And I'm going after the city. So, but you have problems with that. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to sue the government. It just is. And without kind of smoking gun evidence in terms of why or who is kind of guiding this ship from up on high to have it land the way it's landing, it's hard, man. Because it's like incompetent police work is tough to win on because it's just it happens all the time. And ultimately, I mean, I think that they're going to feel like it's worth taking the shot. Do
you think that they have talked to somebody about doing this and maybe were told, don't do it, don't pursue this?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's been plenty of lawyers that they've spoken with. But, I think that the guy that filed the most recent one that resulted in this settlement, I mean, he's pretty adamant, right? I mean, like that would be your guy because you're going to get a civil attorney. Remember, I hate to make civil law sound like what it is, but it's a money grab. I mean, and civil attorneys who typically, in most civil cases, take cases on a contingency basis, which means they front all the costs for civil litigation, which can be very, very costly. In a case like this, you'd have to get a bunch of experts. You'd have to really do a ton of depositions. It would be heavy duty litigation, and you'd be deposing everybody and, trying to get access to records that probably no longer exist, and I imagine that there'd be a fair amount of civil attorneys that'd be like, man, I really want to help you here. But the fact of the matter is I don't know that there's an end game where I end up recouping my money. So, the other alternative is you do a hybrid fee agreement wherein you say, okay, well, I'm going to need you to cover all the costs of the suit, and maybe pay me some hourly. And then if we recover, I'll get a smaller percentage than I normally would, which would typically be a third. Mm-hmm. If it's settled. And then, if you have to go to trial, it's typically around 40%. I've seen it higher, but, so it's tough. It's a tough thing. You'd have to find that lawyer who was like completely with you, and that maybe they're willing to sacrifice some money and some time, kind of like the concept of pro bono lawyers in, the defense side of it. You get people that want to help somebody. I mean, it's kind of like that thing, because it's just not an open and shut case, even with that lower burden, it's a tough case from the civil side of it, because first you have to show liability. And then once you can establish there was liability, it's like a two-part trial, really. So there's a liability side and then the damages side, which is the money side. And I would imagine the Greenbergs don't give a shit about the money. This is all about.
They don't. They said they don't.
Here's where it's sitting right now to clarify, because this is, we've been following this thing, for a very long time, and it's still confusing to us because there's so many moving parts in this. The wrongful death case filed by Ellen Greenberg's parents, it remains open in part, but it has been severely limited by procedural rulings, statute of limitation concerns, and the city's legal defenses. In 2019, the Greenberg family filed a civil lawsuit in Philadelphia Common Pleas Court against the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office, Dr. Marlon Osborne, the original pathologist, and other city officials. That's the lawsuit that challenged the 2011 reclassification of Ellen's manner of death from homicide to suicide. Right. They allege gross negligence and a failure to properly investigate. In 2021, the Greenbergs expanded their efforts by seeking declaratory and injunctive relief, essentially asking the court to force the city to change Ellen's death certificate back to undetermined or homicide. That claim was rejected on the grounds that courts cannot override a medical examiner's professional opinion, even if the family disagrees with it. In 2023, the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania upheld that position on appeal, ruling that the family lacked standing to compel a change in the death certificate, and that doing so would violate separation of powers principles. The court also noted that Pennsylvania's statute of limitations for wrongful death claims is 2 years. And because Ellen died in 2011, a traditional wrongful death claim against third parties may now be time barred unless newly discovered evidence creates an exception, which hasn't been formally accepted as of now. Then in February 25, the Greenberg family reached that partial settlement with the city of Philadelphia, and that agreement included what we just saw. The financial settlement, we don't know the number on that. It's been reports of around $650,000, but we don't know. The city's promise, and this is it, the city's promise to conduct a new independent review of Ellen's death. That's what we're talking about. That's the review that we just went through. However, the family has since filed a motion to enforce that settlement, claiming that the city has failed to involve them or their experts, and that the review process lacked transparency. A judge ordered the city to complete the reexamination by today, literally the 14th as of us are recording this, and then just yesterday, we saw the report come out. So as of now, the underlying civil case is not fully dismissed, but certain claims, especially those tied to the death certificate, changes and specific officials have been thrown out or narrowed. The family's path forward is going to depend on how the courts rule on their motion to enforce the settlement and whether they can legally challenge the findings of the Simon review in light of the agreement. No individuals obviously have been charged or publicly named as a suspect in Ellen Greenberg's death. So that's where That's where
procedurally it lays. So, I mean, I think that this thing was the result of the settlement, right? So, because they slow played this thing and they were getting pissed off. They're like, why hasn't this been turned over? We're expecting this. And the court agreed with them, said, get it done. Like, that's it. Like, this is some bullshit. And so they got it done. So, and I saw, and I don't know if it's Gene or Jeannie Bloom had asked, statute of limitations that shouldn't be if it was possibly a murder. So Jeannie or Gene, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, but here's what you have to remember. There's no statute of limitations on murder in the criminal world. There is a statute of limitations in the civil world. So you have to bring a civil suit for this type of wrongful death claim, as Tony was saying, in 2 years. It's the same in Illinois. And unless you find newly discovered evidence or, it's something that you couldn't have discovered until the time that you discovered it. Okay.
Let me ask you about newly discovered evidence, because there has been some new pieces that we've learned in the last last year, really. The security guard, the claim that's on one of the reports that Sam says that the security guard came up and watched him break down the door, basically. Yeah. Not true. That did not happen.
Right.
The security guard said, no, never happened. In the documentary, he's come out going, I don't know what happened, but I don't want to be represented in a way of something that did not take place.
Yeah.
So is that newly discovered evidence, Bob? I don't know.
From the plaintiff's position, yes, depending on when he finally came clean, in terms of like he may not have even known.
He didn't know. That's the thing. Right. He wasn't lying. Nobody came and asked him. It was actually Brian Enton that tracked him down a couple months ago and asked him the question, because for whatever reason, nobody had done that yet.
Yeah, I would argue that is absolutely newly discovered. You can't impute the incompetence of the police by never asking that question to the doorman onto a victim potentially of a homicide and their family. So, and in terms of the civil lawsuit, maybe if you're the government, you're arguing, okay, well, in terms of their investigation, and I'm talking about, Ellen's family and them hiring a private investigator and going out and saying, okay, look, I need you to go talk to this fucking doorman and tell me what exactly everything he saw, because frankly, that would probably be the first person that I would talk to. Mm-hmm. If I were a private investigator working for the Greenberg, it shouldn't have had to have been Brian Enton. Yeah. It should have been somebody who was like, okay, well, there's this whole story out there that Sam claims the doorman was up with him when he kicked the door in. Let's go talk to him. You know what I mean? So and again, I'm like Tony and I during this episode have just been devil's advocating. I think both of us are, I'm pretty convinced that this was a homicide, that's where I lay on it. But I certainly, if put, my feet are put to the fire, I can argue on the other side of it, because I think that there's enough there. So, but in terms of that not taking place, that might be a winning argument for the government in terms of that being considered newly discovered evidence, because everybody knew that guy existed. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it was merely a conversation. And if you watched the documentary, he was a very forthright guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like he was kind of unwittingly sucked into this thing as being essentially Sam's alibi. Yeah. I mean, if you're to look at Sam as the culprit here, I mean, the doorman was the guy. Well, I was there. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that Sam couldn't have gone up. And if he figured out this lock trick that we could Google right now, it's right there for you. It takes it takes like a minute to do the thing. And it's like one or two tools or something. It's not even tools. It's like a fucking piece of string. And, it's like
you could do it. It's doable.
It can be done. It can be done. I actually wanted to, if I had that type of lock, I would have tried it.
I've done it.
Door. Did it how easy was it?
It's doable. It's not hard.
How long did it take you? Did you time it?
I tried doing this a lot. This was like before I even knew about the damn case. I was curious because I had one of those in my apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wonder how this would work. You know, I'm just curious. And I fucked around. I don't remember, like, 'cause it was years ago. I think I used like, I don't know, a stick or just something that I could throw in that I could kind of manipulate it with. And it's doable.
Yeah.
You don't have to even do it the exact YouTube. There's ways of doing this. There's ways of getting past a lock like that. It's not an impossible task.
Right, it's not a deadbolt.
No. And clearly it wasn't ripped out of the wall either.
No, it wasn't.
You know, so it's not an impossible. And here's the thing. You know, we do see the damage on the door on the latch piece. Very minimal damage. Sam has not been charged with anything. He's innocent as far as we are aware. You could do this from the inside too if you wanted to make it look like you really did this, that you really had to coax that thing open. You simply shut the latch and then you start jerking on the door and you'll
Take
get
a hammer and you'll pound it
100%.
up.
You'll get the exact same results.
Exact same result.
It doesn't mean he's on the other side kicking the thing
Right.
open. It means somebody's trying to make this look like something happened.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's what he did, but I'm saying it could be.
It's
And we
possible.
don't know the answer to it because we already now have a piece of evidence over here that says, he said the doorman was up there with him.
And
Well,
why
that's
was he
not
lying?
true.
I want
Well-
to know why he lied about this.
Well, I want to ask this question too. I'm going to play devil's advocate because the police already effed up 50 other things in this. Who's to say they didn't F up that part of the note taking too?
oh,
Yeah.
okay, fine. I hate that, but
Who's to say? Because it's only in one report. It's not in all of them. Who's to say that doorman, you know, when it was being written, there weren't, you know, intermingling things in their mind of, well, the doorman, because they did talk to the doorman while this was happening.
Right.
Why? So if I'm wondering if it was Sam said that the doorman was up there, or just one of the officers conflated it as, well, they're here together right now. They must have been here together when this happened. Doorman was there while this was happening.
Or
Boom, it's on paper.
Sam says it, and the cop just assumes because it's the doorman, and there's a person locked out of their apartment that the doorman, like, it was an assumption thing that the doorman would
That's
have
what I'm wondering.
escorted him up there. Yeah, it's like,
And then it looks, again, that's another piece of evidence that looks like absolute shit on the cops because it's just incompetence running wild. And it's a mistake, yes, but it's also a very key mistake in a very important life or death investigation of someone as to what happened to them. And you wouldn't want that exposure now, would you?
no, not at all. And, you know, I think from the perspective of the concept that maybe Sam did this, and just to understand, like, Tony and I and Stacy aren't trying to get sued here. So when we speak carefully about this out there, don't glean anything from it.
No, we're not
just
saying he did this by any means. This is conjecture of the conversation.
Right, exactly. So I want to always say that it's kind of like a disclaimer, right? We always put a disclaimer when we're talking about a case like this. So, you know, but in my world, if Sam's the guy, it happened exactly the way that you said, is that whatever took place. Now it's bizarre to think that he would have gone down and worked out after he had done this, but it seems to be that would have to be the case. But in my world, there is no opening that lock from the outside. He went back in the apartment, he engaged the lock, and he did exactly what he said. Just pulled it really hard, you know, to get it to make it look like he had to get into the apartment by kicking the thing in. So, you know, because that's the easiest way to do that, right? Where you give it this, you know, this look that, oh yeah, I had to kick the door in because that's. I mean, who's going to say that you're wrong? Because if I'm stuck out in the hallway for an hour and my wife is in there, and I know that they're not married at that point yet, but like, I'm screaming and I'm like, what the fuck, Allison? What the fuck? Pounding on the door to where neighbors, like all of the neighbors that are home, which I'm assuming was a majority of them with the storm, like bearing down.
They're all snowed in.
Right, they're all snowed in, you know, are coming out and poking their heads out into the hallway.
Well, why weren't there other people helping too? Because this is his person. and she's not responding, he should have been fucking frantic.
Right.
And
Well, here's the deal. He was going up and he was going, he took an hour to get into the damn apartment. And there's two ways of looking at this. And when I was watching the documentary, I thought it did a really interesting way. Here's what I gleaned out of it was he made a big scene. The hour prior trying to get in, he talked to the doorman. He talked to some other people. He made it aware. He made others aware that he could not get into his apartment, and he was going to effing break the door down. I believe that's what the quote was, or something of that nature, to the doorman, because the doorman could not leave his post to go help. By law, the only thing he could, or by the building standards, the only thing he could do was if the police came, that he could move and leave his post.
Well, and some people in our chat
he didn't
have
leave
said,
until then. So that being the fact, Sam did make a scene. Now, you could look at it two ways. Was Sam making a scene so it looked like he was concerned and he was trying to get in, and so others would be aware? Or was that Sam just being genuinely a human being that's concerned and trying to get in, but not thinking the gravity of the situation was where it was? That maybe she's asleep, maybe she whatever, maybe there's a way to get back into this apartment without causing damage to the apartment.
Then why didn't he call the authorities versus his family? Because if I'm frantic... If I'm frantic and I can't get to my person, and God forbid they're, having cardiac arrest and are on the kitchen floor, I'm going to call the authorities. I need help getting in there. I'm not going to call family and set my alibi.
No, and that's the other part of it. That's the part, then you add that aspect in. So you have all these things that could make logical sense and how a human being would react. Why you'd be calling your attorney uncle when your door is locked and you can't get, it doesn't seem to be time to call your attorney uncle. Like, the door's locked. I'm not quite sure why I'm not able to get in. I would think, I don't know, I'd be calling a locksmith or something. I know someone.
I'd call the fire department. They can bust down the door.
I'm not calling familial legal backup.
I have a real world example of this. Now, Allie wasn't inside the apartment, but I had gone down to the Jersey Shore, and my in-laws have they have a condo down there. So, and I had taken, it was around Father's Day. It was 2 years ago. I get down there. It's a building. There's a doorman down there. It's pretty well regulated in terms of, there's always somebody down there. I get upstairs. I have the key, and I open it, and the door won't open. Like, I can't get it open. I'm like, what the fuck, man? So my first call. Now, again, I don't have my loved one in there, right? Like, and I haven't been gone for an hour, because I would have done the same thing. I would have pounded on the door. And in that situation, remember, the door opens about 2 inches. So Sam, in theory, to kind of to put away with the concept that he couldn't have woken her up. Like, I'd be yelling if I thought that she had fallen asleep. I would. I'd be like, yo, yelling through. Are you wake up? You asleep? What the fuck? I'm stuck out here. I'd be getting increasingly irritated. So in my situation, I call my in-laws right away. And I'm like, because my first thought is, I don't want to break this door. It's like, I think it seems like it's stuck just enough to where I could probably do a shoulder bump pretty hard and get the thing open, because they didn't have, it wasn't the flipper lock thing. It was like something was stopping the door from opening. I'm like, what? Like, is there something behind the door? It was really weird. So ultimately I go down and I ask the people in the building, I'm like, what should I do with this? And they're like, you should probably call a locksmith. So the building wasn't taking any kind of responsibility, because they are condos, right? You have ownership. It's your responsibility and I think that they would consider the door to be your property. Okay. And so ultimately I call my in-laws back. I'm like, they're saying you got to call like a locksmith, man. So I wait, the locksmith comes, he can't get it open. And then ultimately, we have to ask my in-laws, we're like, can we just like kind of, can you borrow the door? Can we just, shoulder this thing or kick it open? And ultimately they were like, yeah. And it turned out it was like the screw from the plate had like over time worked its way out to the point where it was stopping the door from opening. So the plate where the lock goes in, one of those screws had popped out or had like worked its way out. So, in this situation, I just think that, ultimately it's never not going to be suspicious.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's never not going to be, because of all the things that we've been talking about. You know, the untimely, bizarre phone call to the uncle when he can't do shit for you. You know, the fact of the matter that nobody's up there and Sam lies about having the doorman with him. I mean, to me, that's the thing that bugs me more than anything else. And I disagree, Illuminating Inc. I do think it's bizarre. I mean, unless you've murdered somebody or unalived somebody, like how you would respond after that type of event is something that you won't know until you've done it. Now, I've been practicing criminal law for a long time, and to just say, oh, yeah, no, I don't think it's weird at all. You know, this guy just committed a brutal murder or unaliving and went down to the gym and worked out for an hour pretending. I think it's, you know, I understand, obviously, the concept of wanting to create an alibi, but it's still a very weird thing to do. Like,
the whole everything.
Sam's perspective.
The thing is, the whole case, if you were to go from, did he have something to do with this? A lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, why? You know, I could see there being an accident. I don't think, it doesn't strike me as a brutal murdering type individual. You know, but again, a cover up of an accident. Is that going on? Or is it a cover up of just really horrible police work? Or at the end of the day, did she do it? Is she the 0.001% that does unalive herself by stabbing? And it is what it is.
I was trying.
And nobody wants to believe it because it looks really freaking weird, and that's why we're talking about it right now.
Right, and I like the fact that we're trying to test both sides of it. You know, because it's become a very one-sided conversation, and I understand why, and I'm not in disagreement with it being a one-sided conversation. But if you're being intellectually honest, you have to test the propositions that each side is putting forward. And, you know, I mean, for me, I ultimately land on the fact that I don't think that she unalived herself. I just think that there's too many strange things, and it upsets me that law enforcement didn't do a real investigation here. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that's never going to not be the case. I mean, they fucked it up. And
if we could just get let's look at this, let's truly investigate this and come to our conclusions, not bureaucratic bullshit.
Right.
Because that's all we keep getting.
Which is what it feels like. You know,
it's what like, it is.
Yeah. And it's like, you're never getting a good answer from somebody on the bureaucracy side as to why. Yeah. You know, it's like you've got state's attorneys or district attorneys. I forget what they call them out in Philly, but you've got them just not giving sufficient answers as to what, like they're just leaning on the determination by the medical examiner. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not giving a full explanation. I mean, if it were me, if I was elected to the lead prosecuting attorney in the city of Philadelphia, I would say, you know, here's what we're going to do. Like, I know what's going on with this thing, but we're going to reinvestigate it one more time. We're going to reopen it up. We're going to do as full of an investigation as we can with what we have, whatever evidence that we were able to gather in our limited investigation on the front side of it. And we're going to dig in deep, and we're going to, so that way, at least I can come up with, even if it's a mea culpa, wherein I'm saying, you know what, sadly, mistakes were made on the front end in terms of the initial investigation, in terms of preservation of the crime scene. We fucked it up. You know, we fucked it up, and at least own it. Because that way it kind of it creates at least something in the minds of the Greenbergs that, like, okay, somebody at least tried to fucking do something. You know, instead of just sitting here and passing the buck, one person after another, you know, hot potatoing this thing all over the place, and no one wants to step up.
Yeah, they're waiting them out. They're waiting the Greenbergs out to die.
It's the way it seems, dude. It really does.
I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, yes, would it bring some closure for that family? Would it be the right thing to do? Sure, but the right thing is also going to cost them a lot of money. if they were to come out and say, we really fucked this up. Because I don't think there's necessarily a world that exists where it's like, we really fucked this up, and now we're not going to be remotely liable for anything we screwed up here.
Yeah.
So it's there's always going to be that way. Not right.
How thick are the walls in this place? Is anybody ever? No, I mean, seriously, we're talking about like this is the we've all, if you've seen the documentary, you've seen it's a hallway that's much like a hotel hallway. So you're going to be sharing. I would have to think that if Sam had done this, that Ellen would have been screaming at some point.
You'd think.
With like this many knife injuries and knife wounds.
I would think if she was doing it herself, she'd be screaming at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. Like I don't know
Bob,
about that.
I burned myself on the oven last night.
But that's not intentional. You know what I mean? Like if you've decided to do something and you're adamant about doing it, I don't know. Like I honestly, I'm not going to die on the hill. I get what you're saying. Sure. I mean, when you injure yourself, like out of the blue, your initial instinct is like, I mean, you're going to do that. If you're of the mindset, like, are women, like if somebody's slitting their wrists, are they screaming? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. But to me, it just seems with that amount of violence that there would have been some kind of ruckus, that somebody would have, somebody would have heard something in that apartment. And I don't know if that was ever investigated. I don't know if anybody ever went and talked to all the neighbors at length. I'm sure somebody did. They had to have. Did
they?
I don't know.
It took because it literally took how many years to get the doorman to say, "Yeah, I wasn't there."
Right. I mean, it's fucking insane. I don't know.
There's so many questions on this. I mean, it's insane. So there we go. Another brick wall for the Greenbergs and anybody interested in justice. I think we all kind of knew it was going to end here, though. Nobody expected. Oh yeah. Oh, you're right, guys. We really screwed this up. Let me give you the real report. It's been sitting under Lenny's desk the last 14 years. Yeah. Just found it. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Bob Motta. Hey, but before you end it, I'm sorry, man. Like the next time you have Siobhan on, ask her in terms of the medication she was taking, because that's always an X factor for me.
Yeah.
All right. So that's always an X factor in terms of like, I see what they are. I know that the clozapam is like kind of it's an anti-anxiety. I don't know what the other one is. I haven't Googled it.
They're very common. Everything that she was taking was very common. I mean, honest to God, a lot of it's like things I've taken over the years, or many of us have. And it's like, I mean, obviously,
either of them psychotropic though. Like, are either?
I don't know off the top of my head.
How do they interact with one another? Is it? It's like I always want to look at medications that people are taking because I don't trust big pharma. You know what I'm saying? But
at the end of the day, I mean, could anything, be possible? Yes. It's kind of if you're allergic to this medication, don't take this medication.
Oh, right. It may cause your testicles to fall off, that kind of thing.
I think they can do anything technically, but was this some sort of dramatic interaction of drugs that would have been standout? No. It was not. It was very common.
Or something that you would have seen a buildup from. Because it's like there's a case that I'm going to be relooking at, and it's a horrific case, and it's an Illinois case, and it's a family annihilator case, and it came out after Christopher Vaughn was tried, and he was seen as the absolute monster because he was convicted of killing his wife and his 3 kids in the car. And it came out that she was taking this Topamax, which came out
I've taken that for migraines.
Yeah. And, it came out after the trial, just how differently the wife was acting leading up to the day that they were taking this drive to this water park. And, and that was one of those cases where Chris, had been to a strip club and had spent money there. And so they had him pegged as this, this scumbag who had done this, when the reality in that case very well could have been, because it's like there was no black box warning on that FDA warning at the time she was taking it, that it does it does give people suicidal ideation, which is hand in hand with homicidal ideation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like, I always kind of look at the scripts that people are taking because it's an important element of any investigation, I would think. But it's a sad case, man. It really is. It's just all around. And I know, like, and I want to finish on this. I know we've gone long, but like the concept of, it's frustrating for people because Sam's never come out and said shit other than, make this kind of bold proclamation about mental illness and mental health and how important it is. So it makes it seem like he's just leaned onto that thing and has never really had a full discussion. But
if you were Sam and you had nothing to do with it, would you say anything?
I don't know. It depends. It
depends.
Are my kids because he's married with kids now? Are my kids walking around in fucking school after the Hulu thing dropped? Like, oh yeah, your dad's a fucking killer.
I know. I mean, at the end of the day, is there? I guess that's my. I'll ask this last question. At the end of the day, is there any positive? Let's assume, as things are standing right now, that Sam had nothing to do with this. But there's obviously this scuttlebutt now, even more with the Hulu thing going on, about what if? Yeah. Does it benefit him in any way, shape, or form to say jack shit about this, other than mental health awareness is important and crises can happen, like he has said in the past a few times? Does it benefit him to say anything about anything whatsoever in this, or does that all just 1,000% open him up to legal liability? Or number two, just more people going down the rabbit hole and speculating that he had something to do with it? I don't know that he can say anything that benefits him, other than just like let it flow, let it the dust settle. You saying shit just flings it back up.
Right. I mean, I think you're right, because ultimately he's not going to have answers for some of the questions. And if first question I'm answering, like, why did you lie about the doorman coming up with you? Is the first thing I'm asking him.
Yeah. And the answer may be, I didn't. They misconstrued it.
Right. Which would have to be his answer. Right.
Yeah. Which, based on all the other screw ups, seems like a fairly plausible explanation, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel terrible for the Greenberg family. It's just, it seems like it's one of those things that they may never get an answer. And just one of those cases, man, that will always be unsolved, or just kind of lay where it's lying, and they'll never get any kind of true answer, which is just sad. It's sad.
It is. It is. Bob Motta, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. Get it wherever you get podcasts, and check out his YouTube channel. Be sure to do that. For Stacy, for Todd, I'm Tony Brueski. Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and be sure to press subscribe wherever you're downloading podcasts. Until next time, I'm Tony Brueski. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.